Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making bacon cheddar biscuits. Now this is a dinner biscuit, so the proportions in it are a little bit different than your standard breakfast biscuit, but it still has the same basic ingredients. I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I've got about 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now if you have self-rising flour, you can use self-rising flour in this, but I would probably add just about another teaspoon of baking powder to my self-rising flour. These have extra baking powder in them. And it has 1/2 cup of fat. You're going to need more fat in these, and I have shortening. You can use shortening, you can use butter, you can use lard, you can use bacon grease, whatever you want for your fat. I think traditionally it was probably lard in them, but I had the shortening, and the recipe I have it says shortening, so I decided to just use the shortening. I have 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese, 1/2 cup of crumbled bacon, 1/4 cup of finely chopped onions, and 1/2 cup of milk. Just like any biscuit, you want to start with your dry ingredients, with your flour and your baking powder and salt, or self-rising flour if you have it. And I'm going to sift these together. If you don't have a sifter, you can put these in your bowl and whisk them up with just a whisk or a fork. You can also use one of these little metal strainers and put your flour and baking powder in them and just tap it, and that'll give you the same thing as sifted flour. Now your next step is you want to put your fat in your flour, and you can cut this in with a pastry blade, or you can cut it in with a fork. The way that my granny and my Aunt Dot and everybody else in my family always did it was they mashed it in with their hands. And that actually probably works the best, and it's the fastest. And it doesn't matter if you're using butter or if you're using lard or whatever you're using in it. This works best. And you just kind of pinch it and mix it in there until it turns into something that resembles gravel or sand. The finer you mix it, the better your biscuits are going to be. And like I said, your hands are the fastest way to do this. And now you want to add the rest of the dry ingredients, the cheese and the bacon, and your onions. And we want to mix these in until they are evenly distributed. And the last thing we're going to add is the milk, just like with any other biscuit recipe. And I'm just using regular milk. You could use buttermilk in this if you have buttermilk and you want to. And you can even add the cheese and the bacon and the onions to any biscuit recipe. But like I said, these are a little bit different. They were intended as a dinner biscuit. And they are traditionally, or were traditionally, a part of Christmas dinner. Missionaries headed out into the Oklahoma Territory in the 1820s, and this was actually recorded as being part of their Christmas dinner. So these might be something different you might want to do with Easter dinner this year if you don't want to take the time to do a yeast roll, or you don't have the time to do a yeast roll. These are much easier than a yeast bread for sure, and they are something different, and they're something special. Okay, now the last thing we're going to add is our milk. And once you add the milk, you don't want to overwork the biscuits, just like with any biscuit recipe. And I'm not going to use my hands for that because it makes your hands really sticky, and then you have to clean them off before you can finish your biscuits. Any spoon will work, or any spatula, and just kind of fold in your milk so that all of your other ingredients are stuck together. Now I've got a little piece of wax paper here. It's up to you whether or not you use wax paper. My granny always used a brown paper bag when she made her biscuits. You want to throw some flour out though, and you can just do it on your countertop if you want to, but then you're probably going to have to scrape a little bit of dough off of your countertop. And I'm going to fold these out onto my floured wax paper. And now you're just gonna knead them lightly. This is not yeast bread if you've made yeast rolls. You just wanna fold them over a few times to make sure they're all stuck together nice. Literally like 3 to 5 times. And you know, how many times you fold them is gonna kinda depend on how much you stir them. And you can use a rolling pin to roll them out if you want to. I always just press them out. I kind of tend to do everything the lazy way, and this is definitely the lazy way. Now, traditionally, these biscuits were cut in 1 by 3 inch rectangles because, like I said, it's a dinner biscuit, so it doesn't have to look like a breakfast biscuit. But you can do them however you want to. I'm going to do a few of them in little rectangles just to kind of show you how they look. If I served rectangle shaped biscuits, everybody here would just lose their mind because it's different and they think everything's supposed to be the same every time. But you just cut them in little rectangles like that and put them on a baking sheet and bake them. And we'll leave some of them in little rectangles and bake them up in a rectangle. Or you can cut them out into round biscuits. Now, a biscuit cutter, you can buy different size biscuit cutters, and I have some biscuit cutters. I used to have a little double-ended one. It made small biscuits on one end and big biscuits on the other end. That one was really good. You could use a can, which is what I have here. You could use a glass with sharp edges. Lots of folks use the lids off of a canning jar. You could do that, or the rings off the canning jar. You could do that. These are really need to be a little bit smaller than what I have here. Like maybe one of those little tomato paste cans would be good because they are a dinner biscuit and they're heavier and they're just supposed to go on the side of your food. But I'm going to use this, and this will make them, like I said, probably about twice as big as what you would want to make them. This should actually make about 24 biscuits, I think is what it said. So it would serve quite a few people. And these might be a good idea for your next church potluck get-together. Something different that you could take. Especially if you cut them in the squares. And I know a lot of folks don't fold back up their dough once they've cut it, but you can do it a couple of times and it's not going to hurt anything. You wouldn't want to fold them back up, you know, 10 or 12 times because they would start to get tough. And if you overwork a biscuit, it does make it tough. We'll do a couple more little rectangle ones here with the rest of this dough. Now you want to turn your oven on 425 degrees. And these will bake for anywhere between 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how big you make them and how hot your oven gets. I'm going to bake them in my skillet, and I did wipe my skillet a little bit so that they won't stick. They do have cheese in them, so I would either dump a little flour under them or definitely grease my baking sheet no matter what you're baking them in. But I certainly want a little grease in my skillet. And you want to allow a little room for them to rise. If you make them touch, they'll actually rise up higher, and that's true of all biscuits. If you leave more room, they will get bigger around and they'll spread out and they won't be quite so high. So it's just kind of up to you what you want. If you want a really high biscuit or if you want it to be bigger around, or, you know. So how much room you leave is going to affect what size your biscuits are. Now our oven is almost preheated. I'm going to wait until it completely preheats to put these in here. And normally when you're doing biscuits or any kind of a quick bread, biscuits, pancakes, whatever, it's a good idea to let your dough sit and rest for just a few minutes before you start cooking it. It'll give your baking powder time to activate. It'll make them rise up more, and they will have a much better texture if you let them sit for just a few minutes before you put them in the oven. And you want to let them sit when you take them out of the oven just a few minutes too, to give them time to firm up just a little bit. You want to serve them hot, but you don't want to serve them immediately after they come out of the oven. But for the sake of video, I'm not going to give them 15 minutes today. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the oven and 425 degrees, and we're going to bake them for anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes. These are kind of big, so they might take as long as 15 minutes. They will be nice and golden brown though when we take them out. If you think about what those early missionaries went through, and like 1820 heading out into the Oklahoma territory to carry the gospel, to carry on the Great Commission. In Mark 16:15 it says, "And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." I hope all of you find your own ministry, your own way to reach out and share the gospel with other people, your own way to show God's love to other people. I think our biscuits are ready. The bacon and the onions and the cheddar just have an unbelievable smell. And you can see they are lightly brown. I don't want to pull them out right now because, like I said, you want to let them sit. You can serve them in the skillet. You can serve them in a basket. You can serve them however. But you want to let them sit in the skillet for about 5 minutes. And that will give them time to firm up and form. It's not going to make them hard. It's just going to give them time to form. They're going to be super, super crumbly when they're this hot. We'll try. It'll also let them release from the pan. And right now they are not. But once they cool just a couple of minutes, they will. Oh, these smell so good. I wish y'all could smell them. The next time, maybe you're fixing Sunday dinner. If you've got a few pieces of leftover bacon from breakfast, you could make these and do something special that everybody hasn't had. And they would be great for potlucks. We have Easter dinner coming up and stuff. Maybe you would want to do these with your Easter dinner. You could, if you don't have leftover bacon, you could use the little packets of real bacon bits in them. We talked about those before. They're very shelf stable, something you can keep in your pantry. But give these a try. They will really make just an everyday dinner special, and they don't take long at all to mix up. You saw how easy they are to mix up. Or they'll really, really make a plain bowl of soup a meal. So maybe the next time you're making soup, instead of making rolls to go with it, you can make these, and you won't be in the kitchen all day long making yeast rolls. You can make your soup and make your bacon cheddar biscuits with it. Thank you so much for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen. If you have not already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.